Hi, I'm Dr. Michelle Pedicola, founder and creator of Secrets of Life and Death. And today I would like to talk to you about fear. Now there's a lot of fear going on in the ether right now because of this virus. People are afraid for their lives. Now that is one of the number one fears of human beings, and in fact any animal, is fear of dying. Or for a lot of animals, it's fear of being gobbled up, which is the same as dying. It is a biological fear. We have a mechanism in our body, which we share with many other animals. Hi, Mara, thank you for joining. The fear is a biological response. And literally, when fear is triggered in your body, by whatever cause, and I'm going to be talking about some of the causes in a minute, when the fear is triggered, a whole cascade of chemicals flow through your body to prepare you to fight, flee, or freeze. And the chemistry is the same. What you choose to do is more a result of your early childhood training, what your parents have modeled for you, how you felt about yourself, whether you felt empowered or disempowered. So these chemicals, what they do is they make the heart beat faster, your breath gets shallow, your mental capacity is coming from the lower brainstem and it's very instinctual. You might even start sweating. All the resources of your body go to the extremities, your eyes dilate, and it's a very uncomfortable state of being. Your sympathetic nervous system is activated. And to rein that in is a little like calming down a wild horse. There are ways of doing it. Some of it is simply practice. It reminds me of when I was a young girl and I was living in the New York area. And from the age of 14, I would periodically go into New York City. And my mother, in order to prepare me, gave me the concept of getting angry instead of freezing. This was really, really critical. And there were a number of times when that particular suggestion was very, very powerful for me. My sister, who was just 2 years older, and I were living in an apartment, and she was actually attacked by somebody in the elevator. But her response was to attack back. And it so freaked the attacker out that he actually ran away. I had a similar experience many years later when I was in graduate school, and my graduate class was doing a series of interviews in Indianapolis, Indiana. We were staying in a somewhat seedy hotel. And the last night I was there, I had been partying with a number of the other graduate students, and I went to bed. And in the middle of the night, I get awakened, because I'm a very light sleeper, awakened by light coming from our door. And there's a man standing in there. And I shout at him, "Who the hell are you?" And he mumbled something and he closed the door quickly. And the woman who was sharing the room with me was frightened out of her wits. And she said, "I cannot believe how you responded." But that was the training that I had in that particular case. We learn how to respond based on our experience. Now, some experiences, maybe you don't have that pattern. For example, I worked with people around grief and loss for many, many, many years. And loss of a significant other can create fear, especially if it's a partner or a spouse. How am I going to survive without him? How can I face each day? How can I live? And the fear is real. But it's often in the form of, it isn't real in the sense that there's anything immediately threatening your health or your survival. There isn't a mad, angry dog. There is not a man with a gun. But the fear is still palpable, it's still real, and it still needs to be managed. So that was the work that I did with my clients, was how to release the emotions and to change their thought processes and their behavior so that they could manage that. And if you want to know more about that, please reach out and have a conversation with me. Or check out my website, secondchancesecrets.com. So how we respond has a lot to do with our experience, what we associate. In the case of being attacked by somebody, if I'm walking in a dangerous area, first I try what my invisibility chant, hello Harry Potter. I try to become invisible. I literally bring my energy in so that I won't be noticed, that I'm invisible. So that's one approach. And then if somebody does come, I go into anger mode. But that doesn't work for everything. It doesn't work for loss. And what I found out recently is it doesn't work so well for speaking, for public speaking. Now, I've been public speaking for 20 years. And I have managed it pretty well. I can get on a stage and I can do a pretty fine job of it. And I'm talking about public speaking because if you're a healer or you're a coach, you may need to use speaking as a way to reach your clients, especially in this time of COVID, where our usual venues for connecting with people may not be available. The speaking, I was speaking last Saturday at an international summit with, I guess, 14 other speakers. And I was the second person on. And here's a tip, a very important tip. Make sure that you have plenty of sleep, that you take care of yourself. And for some reason, I didn't really look carefully at my calendar and had volunteered to do something the night before. And I got to bed late and I was very activated. It took me a long time to relax. And then I had to wake up because the summit actually started at 7 o'clock on a Saturday morning. And so I arrived, but none of that has anything to do with what I really did, which was different. And that was that I did not over practice my speech. And that, by the way, has been my normal way of handling speaking, is that I practice that speech over and over and over and over and over, I mean like 20 times, until I have got it down. And then I give it. Now the problem with that is that I don't relate as intimately with the people who are listening to me. I remember going to do a speech over at another Toastmasters club. And oh my God, I nailed it. I was beautiful. I was a phenomenal actress, tears, everything. And one of the women complained. She said, I had a hard time listening. So it's an interesting balance between knowing your speech and then practicing it too much that you become rigid. I had given the speech that I was giving on Saturday in a different sequence and nailed it completely. But the feedback I got was that was really polished. Polished to me sounded like rock solid. Rock solid is not inviting. It's not connecting with your people. So that's what I'm doing today. I am practicing speaking with just a few notes so that I get used to just speaking. I have an idea of where I want to go, what I want to say, and trusting that the knowledge the thoughts will come through. So what can you do? Well, if you want to work with me, I can certainly teach you a lot of tricks about doing the speaking without making your speech too practiced so that you continue to be authentic. Part of that is actually feeling comfortable with yourself, with loving yourself and accepting yourself. part of it is being able to manage the fear when it comes up. So what's the fear? The fear is that you're in front of all these people and suddenly your mind goes blank. What do you do? And that did happen to me while I was on this summit, is that I kept on going, but it wasn't going smoothly because I kept on forgetting where I was. And I started sweating and I started feeling that activation of the sympathetic nervous system. And I got through it, and I was very activated afterwards because that emotion had been evoked, that had been triggered, and I had to actually calm it down. One of the things that we often go to when we are upset is food. Now, there's a very, very good reason for this. One, when we were children, we went to food, we went to our mothers for comfort, and oftentimes they fed us to make us feel good. So that oral connection to feeling safe and feeling okay is very powerful. When your parents reinforce that habit with, say, every time you get upset, they give you a piece of candy, they're setting you in motion into a habit that could be really not so good for your health in the long run. But where do we go? We go, well, I went to a piece of chocolate. And it did. It shifted the energy. Not only is it associated with comfort from our mother, but it actually has a chemical impact on us. It really does shift your energy. Now, fortunately, I ate very dark chocolate. So I wasn't adding sugar to the mix. And sugar, the problem with sugar is it makes you feel great for a few moments, and then you get a drop in your sugar levels, and then you feel actually worse than you did before. I'm going to take a moment to talk a little bit about the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. I know I'm getting a little techie here, a little, intellectual, but I think it's really important because on this summit, I noticed that what a lot of women used in their speeches was excitation, upliftment, inspiration. Now, I am totally in favor of inspiration, but I want to point out to you that when we get hyped up, which is one of the things that Tony Robbins does, he gets people hyped up, he gets them all excited, gets them walking over coals, and they all say, yes, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it. The problem with this approach, and you want to listen to this in terms of creating your own speech, the problem with this is that you are activating the sympathetic nervous system. And it is only a short step from excitation to fear and depression because they are in the same physiological behavior bodily system. There is another system called the parasympathetic nervous system, and that's when you actually calm down your body. Now, after I had finished the conference and I was still feeling activated because my mind was going a mile a minute about how all the things I had left out. Have you been there? Oh, I should have said this, I should have said that. I haven't even seen it yet, so I don't even really know that it was how it turned out. But my mind is going a mile a minute. What you need to do is you need to activate the parasympathetic nervous system to calm down. And the more you practice that, the better you get. However, you need to practice it on the horse. You need to do it in the situation which is activating the fear. Hence why I'm talking to you right now with 4 or 5 notes here on a piece of paper, is to practice that, because in person, in face-to-face talking, I have a different method, which is, I told you, I block out my talk, but I also connect with individual people. I look into their eyes, and when I focus on individual people, that makes a difference. It calms down the body. It actually makes the situation, especially if you focus on people who are like nodding their heads, it makes it more safe. But when you're talking on a Zoom call or you're talking on a Facebook Live, you're facing a camera, a tiny little hole. And so you actually have to use your imagination. You have to use your imagination to imagine who you're talking to. And this takes practice. So I hope you found this to be particularly interesting. Let me see if there's anything else. Yes, so one of the problems with this whole fear dynamic is avoidance. So when you have an experience that triggers fear, or maybe even the idea of doing it triggers fear, we tend to avoid those situations. And that's why you have to get on the horse again when you fail, because fail is just a first attempt at learning. First attempt in learning, F-A-I-L. So that's the first thing, is that you have to start thinking of it that way. And 2, you have to keep on practicing until you find your method, you find your way of dealing with fear. So fear is something that I work with in my program. And one of the things that's really important in dealing with fear is dealing with it with support. If you are surrounded by people who do not support you, you are less likely to get past those blocks, those avoidance patterns that keep you safe. And so you keep stuck in your safe zone instead of stepping out of your comfort zone. That's why I need coaches. I've used coaches, is because they provide the container for me to take those risks. And they celebrate my failures, my first attempts in learning. And that's what I would like to offer you. If you like what I've had to say, please reach out to me or check out my website and find out how I can support you in your moving on to your next level. Because that's what we're here for. We're here to move on and fulfill our purpose, to fulfill why we're here, to have a positive experience in this life. This life is amazing. Remember the name of my company, Secrets of Life and Death. The number one secret is live your purpose, your passion, fulfill your purpose. If you don't do that, you end up feeling like you haven't lived your life, or that you've spent most of your life avoiding your life. It's scary to step out of your comfort zone. And you will never completely get over fear, but you will learn to master it. You will learn how to manage that wild horse inside. That's all for today. Hope you enjoyed this. Bye for now. And be brilliant.